Alright guys, if you are wondering what happened in those first two solves, it was the exact same scramble, but when they were done, in the first one, first pair wasn't looked for, and in the second one, first pair was looked for, and well, there was quite a large difference between the times, but it doesn't always necessarily make a huge difference, but cross to F12 transition is like a really useful thing to like master, because in the long run it will be like really useful. So the overall concept of this video, if you haven't realized, is planning your first parent inspection and how useful is it. I kind of thought that there's not many videos that like in depthly look at this. I'm not an extreme professional at it. I'm probably at like the intermediate level that I'll show later, and yeah. So let's just get into that. So the first thing I'm gonna say is you should be able to do your know your whole crossing inspection like easily. Okay, let's just use an example. I've got this scramble up on here. For example, you should be able to see your whole cross in inspection, and then possibly know your first pair as well. Like for this, usually you think, okay, you could probably think in notation, but once you get more advanced with knowing your whole cross and inspection, you won't need to think of it as in like D2L R prime FD, as it's like it becomes more easier to you, and that obviously makes your cross faster. So let's just do a quick tutorial of it, an example. So for this, you could just think, well, they don't always have to be aligned with the center, the edge. They could just be relative to one another, and then you can just align them all later. So like for this, I can do D2 L. D2 is going to move this back there, and then the L will put the blue there, which is relative to one another, and then the green with an R prime, and then the red with an F, and then they'll all be relative to one another, and then I can just do a D. So here it goes, and there's your whole cross. So that's kind of the aim, or what you should already be able to do if you're trying to get to this level and start planning first parent inspection. Usually you need to start doing this when you're around 12 seconds. No, maybe not 12, maybe around 11 or 10. It could be useful then, because getting sub 10 will probably become easier with this. So that's just like a quick thing that you should be able to do. Now I'm just going to go over like the 3 levels that I think there is of being able to do first pair. So first is the beginner level, and then there's intermediate, and then there's advanced. So I'll just get into them. So firstly, we're going with beginner. I think the beginner kind of thing is being able to plan your cross using notation. Like maybe you can already do it without notation, but using notation will help you see how pairs are affected. Other pairs will be affected. So okay, let's just let me just use this new scramble. Alright, so with this, you can kind of see how pairs are affected using notation. So, for example, planning the cross with notation now would be L, R prime to do these two, and then you can do a D prime, and then finish green and blue. So, firstly, like looking at pairs that you think would be, well, knowing this won't be affected from any of these moves. And then you see this as well. You can possibly try to like cut which pair would be able to be done. For example, like this would probably end up bad because you know it's already connected here and it's going to go down. So you can start to limit the possibilities of your pairs being like first pair. So for example, now if we say the cross would be L R prime, D prime, and then L R prime again, we can see this one's not going to be affected, and then in the R prime this one will be affected. But then no other moves will affect it except for the last R prime. So this piece here will just move with an R prime to here, and the white will move again with an R prime to here, which could make these two a possible first pair, which is going to be how it's set up eventually. So I'll just show you here. Like there's the LR prime, and then the D prime, and the LR, and then these two here are ready to be inserted into the back. And knowing that is a really good thing, because in all that time that you're planning, you have time to look for other pairs like that, or even this. So you could like possibly just get into next pairs. So that's a really huge advantage that you can have with first pair. And that's kind of a beginner level of doing it. Like, you probably take more than 15 seconds, but don't be discouraged, because at the start, I'm sure everybody does, because it's obviously quite a hard thing to do. And eventually you'll be able to cut down the time to a time which is reasonable, and then you'll move on to intermediate, which I'll just get into now since I mentioned it, which I think is being able to plan your first pair like in under 15 seconds. And maybe use things like 2-gen crosses to your advantage. For example, I don't know if I can find a cross which can be 2-gen from a scramble, but I can hand scramble. Alright, I did a hand scramble, and I kind of got a 2-gen cross here. So, yeah, that's kind of lucky. Knowing that, if you think about it with notation, which you won't have to at this point, but just like as an example, you'd see that doing an R prime will move this down here, and then you need to do a D, and then R, and then another D, and then an R2, and then a D2, which shows that it's only 2-gen because all you're using is R and D moves, which means that nothing in the rest of the U layer, so any of these, will be affected, and nor will anything on the left side. So if we just look on the left side quickly, you just see a bunch of coins and stuff, but here's already this built pair, which is like really good information now, because if you just do all of this 2-gen, this is all going to be preserved, so you instantly have a first pair, and that's a really big advantage. So yeah, and also this kind of links to what my advanced thing is, which is to kind of also implement X crosses, because X crosses can possibly help you plan second pair as well. So if we think about this whole cross, let's find a decent pair. Okay, this is not going to get affected because in this, and when I know after I do this pair, it's going to stay, this edge will be here like the same way, same orientation. Now we can just see his corner and what will happen to his corner. So after the R prime D, it will move to here, the white stick will move here, and then the R prime will keep it the same way, and then it will be a D2 and move to there, which means that you basically have your second pair ready as well. So, for example, this is how it would go. Here's just the 2-gen part with the X cross kind of thing. So, and then straight away you can do this pair. And as I said, that pair would already be ready now. And now that we've looked to second pair, you've already done 2 pairs, which is super quick and super helpful, because now you can just go straight into this one and then the last pair. And then it's super quick after that, because all you have left is OLL, PLL, and 2 pairs, which is like a really good thing. And to be honest, it's all kind of quick, so this isn't like the most in-depth video, but it's just kind of like layers for what you should be able to do. So I'll just go over it again. So beginner level is being able to plan your cross using notation to see how pairs are affected, and this will be able to help you like plan your pairs, but it probably won't be under 15 seconds straight away, so just keep getting at it and you'll eventually get there. And intermediate level is being able to plan your first pair in under 15 seconds and use things like 2-gen crosses, so R&D moves, R&D moves to your advantage. And then advanced is using those R&D move crosses, the 2-gen ones, or L&D moves, and being able to use that to plan pairs and your cross will be efficient because of that, but also you can use that for X crosses really well, which will also help you plan your second pair. So that is kind of advanced, planning 2 pairs in inspection. It's probably not going to be every solve, so if you feel like you're at that stage and it's not happening every solve, don't think of it as something really bad, because I wasn't. You probably won't. I won't really think that would happen every time because you're not obviously gonna get an easy scramble every single time. If you do, you're just really lucky. So yeah. Hope this kind of helped you guys. I didn't know if cross plus one was really a huge thing to go on about, but after seeing many people's videos in sub 10 or sub 12, I thought that it was a great idea. So hope it helps you guys all out there. If you think there's anything else to be added, just don't feel free to comment down in the description in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.